Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. We're going to have Taegan Gates is going to be on today. We'll do some channeling and we're going to do some timeline shifting today. Today should be interesting. I'll just wait for Taegan to arrive. But hey everyone, welcome back. Appreciate you. Hey Taegan, there you are. How do I get you on here? I see you there. Invite. That's what I need to do. Just figuring this out. Give me a minute.
Hello. How's it going?
Good, Taegan. How are you?
I'm doing so well.
Good. Well, we had our first collective organizational meeting last night, and we are going to be using um, higher dimensional tools to group manifest. And
Cool.
we identified last night three main areas that we're going to focus our efforts on.
Exciting. What were the three?
One is books and library and just the whole book space and being able to create books, being a center of excellence for
Mm,
books.
I love that.
The second one is parent support. We want to provide support for parents. In reaching parents, of course, we reach children and we help stabilize their lives. So we kind of want to stabilize the lives of the parents, give them whatever support they need. Um, Books, journals, things like that, materials that can help them, but live events and things like that. Um,
Amazing.
and I think that if we can start to bring parents to balance, I think it gives their kids a stable environment that they can grow up in, and I think that's important.
Absolutely.
And then the third one is we want to become really good at community building, welcome committee, onboarding, and as you know, in the background, we have no no real community structure yet. So that's our third effort is to really try to figure out how to establish the community or a community, and welcome people in, make them feel like they're in the right place, and give them some sort of an onboarding set of tasks or an onboarding sequence,
Mm.
and then just continue to grow community and make people feel welcome. So that was the third area
I absolutely love that. That's
that we're
amazing. I
talking
really
about.
like the community building too, because that's just, I mean, all of it. I love all of it, but just to speak to the community building, because that's just going to permeate outward, right? Like you're beginning that and you're having this like inception point within this community that is already like developed within the online space, but then people are going to be able to take the tools that they're receiving through like the onboarding process and through just being a part of community and taking that into their like localized space as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I don't know which is one of the things I want to talk to you about is this localized space and what the future really looks like in your thinking and what you think about what the future looks like. But we'll get to all that. And what happened for me, I've spent my whole life trying to build three-dimensional tools to solve three-dimensional problems. And
Hmm.
it's always been important to me to help other people and kind of lift them up and give them some knowledge that they didn't know that's life changing. And over the past year with this whole ascension, I told you I used to study enlightenment as like a kind of a flat thing, like how do you get out of the world.
Yeah.
And then this idea of ascension and multidimensional ascension popped into my head and it lit the whole flame. And I realized I've been thinking in three-dimensional terms, solving three-dimensional problems. And what we did last night, uh, we did the whole meditation. We rose, we did our whole ascension meditation. We got up to the sixth and the seventh dimension. And what we're going to do is use six-dimensional tools in the sixth dimension because, at least in my model of the universe, the seventh dimension is the flow of source. Mott, the structure of the universe, the structured flow that's all good, all the underlying rhythm of the universe, before it has exploded into trillions of things or countless things, before it explodes into light. So the sixth dimension is this impossible place where you've got this waterfall of source always available to you. You can always just lean back and just absorb yourself into it, let it flow through you, and it's a magnetic energy,
Right.
because it hasn't manifested yet. And the sixth dimension is this impossible place. You have this source, and you're literally in the spot where it explodes, but you're completely frictionless. Like the explosion doesn't affect you. So the fifth dimension is just like a white box where stuff happens, and then some of that fifth dimensional light goes into the third dimension and becomes manifest in the third dimension. So if we can draw a picture, and I have the tool that I talk about is called the abundance blueprint. If we can draw a blueprint of what we want and simply lay it as a template in the sixth dimension, and picture this and use our collective magnetic energy to put this template down, and then just watch as source flows through this picture now that we've created, and just watch what happens and observe as it comes back, and watch it again and make some adjustments, observe as it comes back, make some adjustments. But we'll do all our work here, and then I think you would agree, whatever comes out there will over time find a way to get through the cracks and manifest, through all the
Totally.
structures that are there. That's what we think. That's what we're working on.
Totally. Yeah. If you're manifesting from the ethereal or astral space, whether that be, our parallel version of this reality or, moving up into the sixth dimension and beyond, you're definitely going to be manifesting at a way higher level than you're manifesting from like trying to like force things or control things from this physical 3D experience. So I think I love that. And then the refinement over time. As you're talking, it's so funny because I'm just thinking about the fact that, we're all just like higher selves projecting our consciousness into these vessels. And so I'm just thinking about like, I wonder what the higher self is like thinking about. I mean, not that it would be really necessarily having this perspective, but it's such an interesting experience as a human becoming aware of these facts, like when we've been so unconscious for so long, for so many lifetimes, and then finally being like, oh yeah, I have like an active part in this. I can just go up to the sixth dimension and come back down and go back up and come back down. And like it's just such a funny thing being being a human.
But here's the goal. The goal of the collective is to anchor in the sixth dimension. So
Right.
that, because it's, if I'm anchored in the sixth dimension, it's hard because, life is coming at me and I've got to do whatever I have to do to, fit in and balance and all that. But when you're anchored in the sixth dimension, as soon as someone else comes up there, boop, there's this magnetic connection between you. And then, nope,
Yeah.
now she's there. Boop, now there's a three-way, boop, 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 boop. And the more people that are there, the more magnetic power we're able to harness. And the more we can focus on these very simple pictures. And the blueprint is like a verbal visual kind of a picture that anyone can understand. And the goal is to anchor there, because if you're there by yourself, you can't anchor there. But when we're actually working on projects, not just, I mean, we're still in our bodies, we're still talking on Zoom, but we're thinking and structuring in the sixth dimension. More people can anchor there, and that's really the goal, is to get people up there and start to manifest. I also call the sixth dimension the dimension of timelines, because you can just swipe through all the time. I don't like those. Let's get rid of those. Right, no, I don't like those. I don't like those. I don't like those. And then pick higher timelines, more optimistic or positive or greater timelines, that we can choose and start to draw out, and then begin to use our combined energy. And what I found in the fourth dimension is you can look down on yourself and you have all the power in the world, but there's an asterisk. You can only use that power to change yourself. You can't change my wife, my kids, the stock market, price of
Right.
Bitcoin. It doesn't work that way. But I can do anything to change that avatar myself. But in the sixth dimension, it's different. You need more people there. It's a combined magnetic power. And we're experimenting.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I had something that I was going to say and then it escaped me, but it's interesting because we are all like individually projecting our consciousness. We are experiencing the external reality that is a mirrored reflection of what we are experiencing internally. So you're right in like the fourth dimension, but I'm curious about the difference in the sixth dimension and the timeline, because what I was going to say was something that the guides actually said to me yesterday was once you reach the higher dimensions, there's less timelines to choose from.
Hmm.
So even like fifth dimension and beyond, the amount of timelines shrinks down substantially to almost like one singular one, because at that point everybody is just acting from their flow. They're acting from alignment, because when we're moving down into these lower dimensions, we have the option of free will, but free will is really the choice to operate or act in a way that isn't in complete alignment with our authenticity. So when we're like sat back, when we're no longer in need of control, when we're no longer trying to figure things out, when we're no longer, you know, muddling through different options, then there is only one kind of clear flow of energy that we are allowing ourselves to flow with. It's not even like we are creating the flow. We're just sitting back in consciousness and source just flows through us. And the difference between like alignment and lack of alignment or unalignment is that's karma. And that's what's come through for me is like the option to make an unaligned choice is karma. And as we move forward and into the fifth dimension, that dissolves. We can make those choices. We just won't. There would be no point to do that because it feels right. It feels good in this spiral upward in consciousness and in frequency to be moving in the energetic trajectory that our consciousness is moving through and moving into, moving with. So the amount of timelines shrinks down with that, because timelines are all of the possible potentials of choices that we can make. But we all are an individual piece of this divine puzzle. So it's like, we're not all, there's lots of great ideas out there, but we're not all going to be the one to implement that. We can potentially be supportive roles, but there's going to be like an individual for each need within the collective sphere. And so it's interesting to me and I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, about like the sixth dimension with the timelines. And if that is just something that like has an inception point in that space and then permeates down into the third dimension and that's where we experience it, or do you feel like there is an infinite number of timelines in that space too? I mean, I think that there probably is, but you go ahead.
This is my understanding, right? So I have my own model of dimensions. Is that the way it really is? Of course not. It's just my model of it. It helps me think through it. In the sixth dimension in this model, it's a real pulsating magnetic energy, and it's real. And all of us can place our consciousness in the sixth dimension, and this pulsation is flowing through us. It's flowing through us. But since we don't do anything differently or think anything differently, it just keeps flowing and keeps filling in the world as we think it's supposed to be. The next step as it's supposed to be. But when you think differently, when you choose different thought patterns, and again, I haven't done this on a personal level, but I believe it's a collective energy or a cooperative energy. It's the magnetic energy that I feel in the sixth dimension is, you're too young, but in the old days, they used to have the wave. I used to go to Yankee games in the 1980s, right. And they had the wave. And, it first start out a little bit, and you'd like, oh, you just put your arms up. And then, all of a sudden the wave in Yankee Stadium would start to grow and on like this, for 5, 6, 7 minutes. And you see that wave going, and all of a sudden, wow, you just have to stand up. It's a magnetic energy. And it comes from human cooperation, which is we're the most cooperative species on the planet. We need each other. We need human touch. We need to be with each other. We need this cooperative energy. And the way the world is every single one of us has to impossibly figure out how we fit in to this third dimensional unaligned structure and how we get power there and how we, oh my God, like how the hell would I know? I just want to just live a good life. I don't want to have to fight every second of my life to try to figure it all out. So why not use this collective or cooperative energy? And it also comes from, I used to run sales meetings. I'm still a partner in a life insurance agency, but I don't get that involved anymore. But, in sales meetings, we would get people like crying, that Mary, stand up, stand up. Mary, how long you been here? 3 weeks. Mary, what did you used to do? I was a waitress. What was a good week when you were a waitress? I'd make $750. Mary, you just got your check this morning, didn't you? Yeah. How much was it? $2,400. That collective energy, which we can choose to generate. I can't do it on my own. And so what we're doing is collectively being very precise about the pictures that we're creating and collectively putting our energy into that without any regard for expectations or having any idea how it's going to happen or who needs to do what. All of this will manifest because we're putting the picture at the source.
This is interesting because it's bringing insights in as you're talking. So the thing that they were bringing through is like this magnetic force is actually the experience of a collective consciousness. And so it's like at that level, like when we've moved into that dimensional plane, we've moved past, like we're still operating these characters, but we're operating them from the understanding that we are part of a collective consciousness and there's no separation from anybody else that's in the collective. So it makes sense that you need like a number of people holding that frequency to be able to experience that. And that's why it's almost like the fifth dimension is like a bridge to that. And it's kind of like what I was kind of feeling into last week when I was like, okay, the fourth is like the energetic parallel to the fifth, but the sixth is the energetic parallel. Wait, fourth to the third and the sixth to the fifth. Because it's like the sixth is our energetic experience of what that like physical reality would be in the fifth dimension. And so our energetic experience of that is that wholeness, is that cohesion, that magnetism, that collective essence where you're able to create from that space, even if you guys, or even if, sorry, I'm like reading the comments at the same time, even if like the fifth dimensional reality, you're still operating from these places of like individualized aspects, but the energetic understanding of that would be different. It wouldn't be the same as it is here, where it's like this, we actually are experiencing ourselves as individuals. You're having that character, but you understand and you feel yourself to be part of that whole. I like it.
Yeah, and the sixth dimension, this is a great place to stay, the sixth dimension. It's a really fine place to anchor because, first of all, it's a magnetic energy, and this magnetic pulsation, aware of it or not, is pulsating through all of physical reality. It's underlying all of physical reality. We're not in touch with it, but in the sixth dimension, oh, wow, here it is. This is it. It's all of it right here, right now, not differentiated, just all of it. And then and it's, to me, well, there's a couple other things too. It's the spot where the time stands still. It comes to a complete stop. And now you're above time. And so now there's always the present moment. And every time you're acting through the present moment, so to speak. So I always practice it. I open the door here and I walk down the hallway. I'm in the present, in that one present moment. So we're just like baby steps trying to learn how to embrace or weave this type of thinking into our being. But it's that power, like any team. When I used to coach little kids, we just would get so amped up. And, for football, we won 20 games in a row. And bam, 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 why are we going to win? Because we say so. We just impose our will because everyone was together and everyone gave full effort. And so once we have the picture clear about what we want, and that's what you and I were chatting earlier about, what timeline do we want to manifest? Once you see clearly the timeline that you want to manifest, and I don't know about this thing where like maybe that's the eighth dimension where there's only you only really don't have a lot of timeline choices because it's all the same thing. But I believe that our mission is not just to ascend and leave and walk away from humanity. I believe that we have a responsibility that as we learn and as we grow, to first of all be able to heal ourselves, and then be able to, project that healing beyond ourselves and make lives better, which I think is why books are so important. Why helping parents is so important, because people really need help. And I think, we could all leave, maybe we will all leave, and leave everyone for themselves. But I think we want to help as many people as we can.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's like us like dissipating into like an ethereal plane. It's exactly what we're talking about. So if we have enough people that are on the same page in terms of the collective image that we are trying to project into reality, when we have enough of that, that's when we have the collective shift. So for us to move into the fifth dimension, for us to ascend into the fifth dimension, we have to have enough of us that are at a baseline frequency of the fifth dimension or above, because that is going to project a fifth dimensional world outward. And once we've hit that flip point, then it's the entire collective, because it's like you've hit that threshold mark where once you've moved past that, moved past that energy, then there's no choice but for the entire collective to flip into that. And so it's always,
And
it's like
however that looks, like we don't know what that looks like. It's just however it looks, that's what happens.
yeah. And the thing is, like, we are changing between timelines constantly. Like every single microsecond, we're flipping between timelines. Each now moment is a new timeline. And so our timeline is based on our frequency. And so even when things shift, we'll probably have more of an understanding, but it's more or less just going to look like things are just, slightly different than they were before. Things are a little bit brighter. Things are a little bit more vibrant. And there's this incremental process leading up to this point where there's this natural splitting of things that feel good and feel in alignment and things that don't necessarily feel good or in alignment anymore. There's going to be a natural splitting away from like old systems and old structures and things that drain our energy and drain, keep us stuck, keep us stressed out, when we are naturally doing the work to heal ourselves, when we are naturally kind of like bringing the attention inward. That is a natural trajectory. We notice we notice our energy more when we are doing the healing work. And so we notice the things that are contributing to a lack of well-being within us, which means that we are naturally going to be drawn to do more things that bring in our natural well-being. So that's where that split comes from. It's not like there are going to be external circumstances, because there has to be, but most of it is like an internal, like, I am choosing this. I am choosing to do more things that are more positive for me. Maybe that includes like moving out to the country. Maybe that includes just spending more time in nature. Maybe that includes quitting your job that you hate. Like it's all stuff like that. And so I think a lot of people think that these things are going to happen to them, and like, no, it's it's something that you are going to have to actively create and make choices within, but it's not something that is like, coming to you, happening to you, and shifting for you. It's like these shifts, like I said, are happening because we are beginning to project a level of consciousness that's at the fifth dimension and above. And when we have enough people doing that, then our entire reality shifts. And then the last thing that I wanted to say, especially with like, the present moment to present moment to present moment, that's just acting as if. And so that's this whole process of like adding in all of these little practices that get us to be in the energy of the version of us that is experiencing reality from that dimensional plane. Because if we do that enough, then we just are that.
That's what I say all the when we do the fifth and 4, 5, 6, 7D meditation, which, by the way, for those of you listening, we do every Tuesday night. So get on the newsletter and you'll get an invitation to it. I'm pointing up in the air. Link in my profile. So when we do that 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D meditation, I say all the time, it's muscle memory. The more times you do this, the more, oh, okay, it's not the first time. It's not my first rodeo. I've been here before, and I can spend a little bit more time here and a little bit more time the next time and a little bit more, feel a little bit more comfortable, because reality is where you put your focus on. If you focus on the sixth and seventh dimension long enough, hard enough, with enough other people, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what it becomes. That's your reality. That's the way it works. And if you don't do that and you're just plugged into the lower dimensional thing, that's your reality. And I really believe that these timelines, this lower reality exists only because all of us are putting all our energy and our attention into it. And the minute we withdraw our attention, as many people already have, that world begins to lose power and lose energy. But the
Yeah.
second step is the more important. This is the collective step. You've got to plug yourself into a higher timeline. You can't just wander around and say, "Oh, I'm a unicorn. I'm a unicorn." No, you've got to, because then you're just going to get sucked right back in. You don't have any discipline or anchor or anything. You've got to anchor yourself to a higher dimensional vision and then make that muscle memory and make that group grow. I think we're exactly aligned here. I'm
Yeah.
really, really happy for this conversation. So I have a question for you. I was thinking about the book that you're working on, that you're trying to finish, about ley lines and earth lines. You can explain it better,
Earth
but
mysteries.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I want you to explain that briefly, like what your book is about. But I also want to add a question for all the Americans who are listening. It's like, where are we going, and how soon can we pack our bags and get there? So tell me about. I want to hear about this book you're working on.
Yeah, so it's going to be called Earthborn, The Guide to Gaia's Living Body. And it is something that came through for me over the last year. It's been this kind of consecutive process. About just under a year ago, my guides came to me and they said, "You're going to be bringing fairy consciousness to the planet." And I was like, okay. And so I was like, I actually was in the process of writing a different book that was kind of the accumulation of all the things that I had learned doing the Akashic records and just kind of like the basics of like spirituality stuff. But I just kept getting this vision of like fairy consciousness on a book in my head. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to sit down and start channeling it. And so I started to write it. And there was a lot of really interesting stuff coming through, because I think that, Fae and elemental consciousness has a particular connotation, especially within like certain groups. Like they can be tricksters. Like it's very embedded into certain cultures, especially in like European cultures. And they have like a very particular view on them, but they were bringing it through from like a galactic sense. And actually a lot of these collectives came from a different galaxy and were part of the creation of this galaxy, which is super interesting. But it really kind of took a shift when I hosted a retreat in Guatemala, because in Guatemala we were at Lake Atitlan, which is in this like circle of volcanoes in
Mm.
this lake, and geographically it kind of like there's like a slope from South America and the slope from Central America, so it's almost like this like draining point. It ended up being like a really potent energetic space, and I'll explain like what that kind of means in a second. But what we ended up doing with all the energy work that we were doing was we opened up this grid point and we connected our energy, the group's energy, in this line of volcanoes, and activated the energetic grid of the earth in that space. And so from that point, it was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And information just started flooding through from that point. So the book is about the remembrance of the earth mysteries that have been utilized on this planet for thousands of years by the Druids, by the Egyptians, by the Atlanteans, by the Sumerians, by indigenous and Native American peoples. They're all following the same energies, using the same energetic convergence points. And what I mean by energetic convergence points and ley lines and all that. So ley lines are the electromagnetic grid of the earth that are based on the poles, but they're dispersed in the shapes that are associated with the sacred geometry of the elements. So it gets kind of convoluted, but there's an electromagnetic grid. There are different energy meridians. what we end up seeing is our interconnectedness with the earth, to the earth. Our body is a reflection of the Gaian body. Not only are we as humanity a collective consciousness, which, goes perfectly with what we were just talking about. And as we move upward in consciousness, we're going to be, understanding that on an embodied level, but we actually understand on an embodied level that we are just expressions of Gaia. Our souls, are projecting from a specific area or location, but in terms of our physical vessels, this is Gaia. This is an expression of the earth. And so we evolve to understand, and especially when we continue to clear out the space within our physical vessels, we understand that not only are we reflections of the earth, but we are part of the earth. And so to assist in the energetic clearing that is necessary for the earth, because we're not the only ones that have to do this. Gaia has to purge a lot of density that has been accumulated in her body over the last millennia. And she does that through our clearing. So it's this symbiotic process. And a lot of what we're noticing with the environmental issues, the volcanic and seismic actions that are occurring environmentally, that is Gaia purging. That is like all of these like crazy like weather conditions, the flooding, the fires. This is all Gaia purging energy from the energy body. But it doesn't have to be so intense. So what we're kind of speaking to, and what part of the process is for the individuals that feel called to do this work, are, actively and consciously working alongside Gaia to clear the energy in yourself, but also to assist her in her own energetic purging. And it kind of discusses the different roles that can be taken as somebody that identifies as an earth worker, which is a gatekeeper, a grid worker, or an earth steward. So the gatekeepers are individuals that work at the energetic convergence zones, which can be called portals, but really it's just an intersection of different grid lines. And at those intersection points, there's just the veil is very thin. And so it's easier to access information. It's easier to bring frequency through. It's easier to clear the density of the space, but also of the individual. That's where, you see things mythologically like oracles living in caves, or people or monks living up in the mountains in caves. It's like those are threshold points to higher dimensions where things are easier to access. Then there are also individuals that work like right on the grid lines themselves to create flow, and it works a lot like acupuncture does. So there are certain like acupressure points where you go to relieve tension and alleviate and kind of create a higher degree of flow within the lines and the energy meridians, so that the entirety of the grid is flowing better. And then there are earth stewards that have a deeper connection to plants and animals, that do land clearing, and it's more like the entirety of the land rather than a specific area, rather than like a convergence point, or rather than the lines. And so it's basically just talking about all of that, because if we're looking even back at like the Druids, like that's exactly what they were doing. All of those stone circles are demarcating energetic convergence points that they would go to access higher dimensional places. The Pyramid of Giza is on a major earth chakra, which is a major energetic convergence point that allowed for the utilization of free energy. We went to Mount Shasta, which is another major convergence point, and there is a connection between what we're doing now and what will be occurring later, because our bodies, our DNA becomes crystalline, which just means it becomes more light-based rather than like dense materially based. And Gaia's body does the same thing. That's what we're talking about with Earth moving into its next incarnation too. And these Earth works need to occur at the same time that all of our working, or our density clearing, does for her to move into her next incarnation as well. And again, it's all just reflections of itself. So if we're moving there, she's moving there as well. It's a symbiotic process.
So can you explain, like, is Earth, like there's electromagnetic forces, like very powerful electromagnetic forces, and they come out in certain patterns that repeat, and like certain chakras, and there's a certain structure to all this electromagnetic energy that's going through the Earth?
Yeah. It's like a structure, like if you're thinking of like grid lines, it's like that, but they are in different shapes. So they're based on like the four elemental shapes, which is, I can't remember the name of the sacred geometry, but they're like the water, air, earth, and fire each have a particular sacred geometric shape, and the grid like dissolves, not dissolves, but dissipates into different shapes based on like the elemental frequency of the particular area. And so it's all based on the interaction between the poles and the atmosphere that keeps it kind of contained, because it doesn't necessarily like come like out of the earth. It's like it's the structure that's contained, just like our energy fields have a particular structure to them. The earth's energy field has a particular structure to it as well. Yeah, it's the platonic shapes. Thank you for the person that said that. So yeah, like I said, it's this symbiotic process that's happening, and part of the channeling that I've received is that you know, as we are going through this ascension and going through these ascension symptoms, we can actually utilize the connection to the earth to neutralize the forces between us. So if we are experiencing, you know, density or purging after, or, you know, we're just going through some of our old patterns and we're sitting with difficult emotions, we can intentionally ground and intentionally kind of send that energy into the earth, and it actually meets as two opposing forces, the energy of the earth and then the energies that you're sending down, and then they neutralize.
So my
And so,
question, we were
okay.
talking earlier about this magnetic energy that we all have, and kind of raising our consciousness to almost like that level, that sixth dimensional level of magnetic energy before it blows up and manifests into everything. Can we take that energy? Do you have to be physically on the ley lines for it to affect your body, or is it just a sixth dimensional, which is above time, above space? You could be anywhere, and you're just applying this, like we were talking about applying a template, a picture. Can we create a picture or a template like that, which would align us with the Earth's magnetic field and
I definitely think so.
heal the field?
I definitely think so. I think like everything starts energetically, and that's been like the main message, is that there are going to be certain individuals that are called to do like physical work, because there are certain individuals, you know, that are called to some of these earth-based roles that are going to be drawn to actual physical locations to do physical work. But for the individual, like what we're talking about in terms of like the sixth dimensional magnetism and the collective consciousness, that is part of the process. And so it can absolutely be done without having to go to one of these like energy convergence points or sacred sites, or going to a particular ley line or an energy meridian within the earth. It can be done just within the sixth dimensional space and connecting in with the crystalline grid of the earth, because the crystalline grid of the earth is the ascended version of the electromagnetic grid. So the ley line is like the 3D.
Crystalline version of the Earth is the ascended version of the electromagnetic grid.
Yeah.
The crystalline version of the Earth. What's that?
So basically, the crystalline grid is the energetic version. How do I explain this? So we have a certain structure within the physical body, and then we also have our energetic field. And so it's basically the same. Whereas the ley line would be like the physical, the 3D, and the electromagnetic is the structural grid within the energetic plane. So as we move up dimensionally, we are going to be interacting more with the crystalline grid rather than the ley line grid, but it's just reflections of itself. It's just a higher ascended version of itself.
Hmm. Hmm. And so on a personal level, how do we become that aligned structure? How do we, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do we, I feel, what I know is that like this pulsation goes through us all. So we have this magnetism, we have this light, we have this energy that flows through us and around us. How how can we, I guess grounding would be one piece of it. How can we like release everything and just become that structure so that we don't try to fight against that structure?
I mean, the funny thing is that the main thing that the guides have said through the channeling is is literally just do the work that we're talking about. It's clearing the space, because everything that is existing within us that is still being held onto in terms of density is what is in resistance to us fully embodying the understanding of ourselves as part of this greater collective. And I think that just opening up our understanding a little bit more to, or from just having our collective consciousness that we're creating being just humanity, make it everything. Because it's the earth, it's the animals, it's the plants, it's the air, it's the sky, it's everything. There's like a solar grid, like an atmospheric grid, and an earth grid, and they kind of like encapsulate one another. But we are part of that. We're part of that collective consciousness. There's no separation. And so just extending what it is that we're not separate from, because if it's like we're creating a collective consciousness in the sixth dimension, just open it up so that, like, the human body is a microcosm of the Gaian body. So everything that's happening on an internal level is just a reflection for everything that's happening within the greater Gaian grid. And the Gaian collective is just a microcosm for the galactic consciousness. And so it's all just layered reflections of itself.
So I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier and what we talked about last night in our collective organizational meeting. So we've got this 6-dimensional patterns that we want to start thinking about, and we want to start, that are guided towards our 3 main areas: parenting, building community, and kind of stepping, what would be the right, or onboarding processes, and then books and knowledge, the ability to store and create like a knowledge and books, and make sure that that information and knowledge and wisdom isn't lost. It sounds like that's good, and it would also add like a nice little spice to the sauce if we would also realize that we're doing this for humanity, and we're also doing this for the collective ascension of the earth.
Yeah. And like, I think that part of this too, and like part of what we're creating and co-creating together, like as a group, as a community, and as a collective, is that we're each moving into and sinking into our own individualized roles. And so we're each kind of pursuing and adding in the particular spice, the particular flavor that calls to us. And that's the beautiful thing, because we can see, again, this reflected in nature. Like, nature isn't like fighting the roles that it has. Like, spring springs when it's time to spring, it decays when it's time to decay. Animals are operating from this intuitive natural pull because they are allowing the flow of consciousness to just flow through them. They're not like, fuck, I don't want to be like a bear today. You know what I mean? Like, they're not.
I'm a victim.
It's not like that. We're literally the only species that's doing that.
Right.
And so when we, are moving toward these kind of ascended goals or aspirations as a community or as a collective, it's allowing each of us to sit into the collective, or sit into the individualized puzzle piece that we are within the bigger divine puzzle. And so kind of just like bringing awareness to that, because that's all that we really have to do. If we are moving into a more collaborative space together, we will naturally sink into our understanding as part of the greater collective as well. And so I think, like, yeah, for sure, bringing more awareness to the fact that, like, there's no separation between us and nature. We are part of that. We are part of the earth. We are expressions of the earth. But all that we need to focus on is the things that are naturally calling to us anyway, and allowing space for other people to step up in their roles, and other people to step up in the ways that feel called for them to do so, and encouraging people to move out of fear and into the place within themselves that allows for them to express their kind of innate authenticity.
Yes. I like that. I like that. I don't know that I understood everything that you said, to be honest, but I like that, to realize that whatever we're called to doing, whatever actions we're taking, first of all, we can start those actions at a higher perspective, so we can be more clear and more intentional about our actions. But we can also group together those intentions at a higher level, and then see and just put that energy out into the universe. But then to combine that with the fact that, yeah, we're doing this together collectively as a group of people, X number of finite number of people, we're doing this, but also we're creating this pattern that other people, even though they're not physically seeing it or aware of it, it now exists. They can go into that pattern, and the whole pattern is a flow. It's like a toroid, right? It goes down into the earth and comes back, and it's not just the earth; it's all the dimensions. Wow, holy mackerel! Wow, that's very grounding, very humbling.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
I'm humbled. I'm humbled because I feel like we can. My background is, we have a goal as a team. Let's go win. Let's do
Hmm.
it. Let's just, okay. We want to create a library. Let's create a library. I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what comes next. I don't know who does what. But we're just going to put it in the magnetic field, and then we're dealing with unseen forces, and over time we'll see what happens, and we'll learn how to
Yeah.
use it better. But it's more humbling than that, because it's not like us trying to create something. As long as we also need to keep in mind that we're creating it not just to prove it to ourselves, but we're creating it as a healing energy that goes through all life. Wow, holy mackerel, that's a little humbling.
And all of the things that we are feeling called to do are things that like that are part of our life path. And we just think that they're like ideas that are just like plopping into our mind. But it's like, no, especially when you're operating from the place of alignment and you're following the aligned path, you're following the flow of energy, or you're allowing the flow of energy to move through you. It's like all of these things are just happening. Like they're part of who you are and who you came here to be. And you're just allowing them to kind of come into your pathway, and you're saying yes to them, which continues the flow of energy. And so we have this idea that it's like us that's, I mean, and in a sense, like we're co-creating, we have to be actively doing it as well. But it wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for us. These ideas wouldn't be coming in if it wasn't like meant for us to be pursuing. And so it's like, yeah, we're going to go create this, but it's probably meant for us to create this. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an idea. And I think like when we get to sink into that, like that's where the surrender comes from. That's where like the actual sitting back in trust is, because when you understand that the flow of consciousness is happening through you, and these things are coming in and they wouldn't be coming in if they weren't for you, then you can allow yourself to just be a conduit for it. You can show up in a place of service, and in a knowing that I'm just following the alignment. I'm following the messages that I'm being given. And these ideas, like even the individuals that don't feel like they're receiving messages from guides, like having passion and having ideas come in, feeling like you are driven towards certain things, that is your alignment. That is you receiving messages. And especially if you're doing things and things feel like there's a flow, that's alignment. If you're feeling like you're constantly fighting against something external, then it's not alignment. Then that's not the direction. Like maybe there needs to be a pivot or a shift in attention or intention. But I think like it's this slight shift in perspective from trying to like kind of like forcefully create, rather than understanding that these things wouldn't be coming in unless you were meant to flow with them, and then seeing how far they kind of go from there.
Well, let me push on that a little bit, because there's a lot of people who feel compelled to do not nice things too.
Mm.
And it's just that energy flows through them, and they feel very comfortable with it, and they feel like they have a purpose now, and they, okay, I'm on task, and to do things that aren't nice or helpful or healing.
I think that the difference comes from and can only be accessed through self-reflection.
And
So
heart-centered is what you
yeah,
talk about. Use that
yeah. So
word,
it's like,
heart-centered. Yeah.
yeah, where are you operating from? If you're operating from a place of fear or pain or wounding or some kind of armoring, then the actions that you're taking out in the world are probably going to be different than if you aren't operating from those places. And if you're operating from that place of expansiveness or a bodily yes, or things that feel, like genuinely exciting and passionate and don't have that sense of, limitation or lack or fear or anything associated with it.
Would you be able to give us like a 5 or 6 minute meditation about this alignment to put you on the
Sure.
spot?
Sure. Let me think about this.
Or you can do,
Okay.
like you can do one of your, close your eyes and do one of your readings. That would be fine too, because I'd love to hear about that, particularly as it relates to us kind of putting our minds together as a collective, see, then it gets into the thing of we're trying to do something. So anything you have there.
Okay, well, why don't I channel a little bit and we'll see what comes through, and then maybe I can
Perfect.
do a little couple minute meditation too.
Perfect.
Okay. Maybe they'll just bring through a meditation. We'll see. Take time now to dive deep into your heart space. This is the place where true nature resides. It is the place where the eye of the storm, the eye of the hurricane allows you to see the pathway forward with clarity and with ease. It is where you can access your divine wisdom. This does not always need to come through in ways that feel external or even ways that feel obvious. The subtlety that exists in this space is where you can reside, and where the information that will allow you to become versions of self that you are propelling yourselves toward will be able to take root, where seeds can be planted so that you are able to move forward into your highest vibrational alignment. Okay, I'm just going to give you the download that they're giving me at the same time. So what they're actually saying, and it's okay, so this is the meditation that we're gonna do, because what they're saying is when you go into the heart space, your heart space is actually your connection to your soul, your higher self. It's beyond the version of self that's existing within the dimensional planes. It's like the version of self that's still in the oneness. Your heart is your like lifeline. You're tethered to that. So if you're connecting deep into your heart space and you're planting seeds, intentions in the heart, then it dissipates out through all of the dimensional planes. So that's interesting. So that's what we'll do for the meditation. Let's see what else you got for me. Your access to these dimensional planes is available through the heart, yes. It is available through the heart, and it has always been available to you. The letting go process of density, of feelings of lack, of fear, has always been a coming back to yourself, a coming back to the version of you that exists in this space. So when things feel fearful or overwhelming, or like they are in need of a reset, bring yourself back here, because this is your space within the whole. It is your wholeness. There is no need to find any sense of external gratification outside of this sense of self, because this sense of self is where you have always been and where you always will be. This space is where the version of you that exists, they're saying outside and across time at the same time, where the version of you that exists outside of time or across time is located. It is this presence, this sense of now, that is where you find this incremental upward spiral. It is when you can bring yourself back into this space that you find your highest degree of alignment. That is your source, your pull through the dimensional planes. They're literally showing me like the spiral upward in consciousness, and then they're showing me like the higher self and the connection to the soul up at the top, and we're kind of like moving spirally up through the dimensions. But they're showing me like the connection to the higher self as this rope that's kind of like like down through the middle, and we can just pull ourselves up from the rope instead of like having to go through, because it's almost like the spirals are our movement through the external, because our external reality is reflecting the version of us that we're currently experiencing, but it always comes back, right? Like we experience the same things over and over and over again from different and ideally higher perspectives. And what they're saying is like you're naturally going to be moving upward through this spiral of consciousness, but you don't have to. And I think that that's kind of what we were talking about last week with the direct versus the indirect route, because life is going to give you the indirect route whether you like it or not. But if you're staying in the middle, you're kind of staying in the eye of the hurricane, like they said, the eye of the storm. You're in the middle in a sense. And so you're just pulling yourself upward by staying in that state of presence, because that state of presence is your soul. It is your higher self. It's beyond this incarnation. It's beyond this vessel. And it's easier to detach from the identification with this particular vessel when we're staying in that state of witness, because we can recognize that the witness isn't the body. The witness is something that's beyond the body. And that's what so many spiritual traditions have talked to over the last thousands of years. And, you know, they're all really saying the same thing, and it is like bringing yourself back into that space, but there is a location for that, and the location is the heart. And so if we can allow ourselves to sink deeply, not just on a surface level, not just on like, okay, what am I feeling, but like deeply into the presence that's existing within the heart, then that's our connection to our soul and our higher self. And in terms of, you know, creating a collective consciousness, the higher self is never separate. The higher self is always connected to everybody around it. It's connected to the entirety of all of existence, beyond just this group, beyond the earth, beyond this galaxy. It's everything, it's everyone, it's all of it, all at once. And we are never separate from that. They've described the location that the higher selves are to me as in the togetherness, which I feel feels much more aligned sometimes than the oneness, because the oneness can feel very alone. But the togetherness is that oneness where all of us are existing, where all of us are together and in a deep sense of connection with one another. So we'll do a couple minute meditation. So just putting two hands on your heart, or just bringing your awareness into the heart space. Taking a few nice deep breaths. Almost imagine that you're breathing in and out through the heart. Maybe breathing in through the back of the heart and exhaling through the front, because the back of the heart chakra is where we receive love and the front is where we give love. So taking a few nice, deep, cleansing breaths. Exhaling out anything that's being held in the heart, any pain, any fear, any density of any kind, any restriction, any limitation. Feel it on the inhale and let it go on the exhale. And you're just going to bring your breath back to its normal rhythm. Feeling into the sensations that are happening under your hands, noticing the feeling of your heartbeat. Feeling the physical layer of the body, the physical layer of the heart. And then we're going to go one layer deeper, which is the emotional layer of the heart. So feeling into whatever emotions are being experienced in the heart space. Maybe there's an expansion, maybe there's a contraction, maybe there's sadness, maybe there's happiness. We're not trying to shift or change anything. We're just allowing everything to be there. Just feeling them to their fullest extent. And continuing to breathe. And continuing to feel and allow. And then we're going to go one layer deeper to the energetic sheath underneath both the physical and the emotional bodies, moving into the energetic, moving closer into the core of our essence, feeling the vibration, feeling the sensation, dropping into the wholeness that exists beyond polarity. Witnessing the vibrations, witnessing the sensations. Acknowledging yourself as a separate witness to these things that you're experiencing. And we're going to go one layer deeper into our connection to our wisdom body, our connection to our soul. Feel the expansion of this body. Feel how it radiates far beyond the physical form. Feel the lightness. This part of you sees the whole picture. This part of you isn't attached to outcome. This part of you is just joyfully watching the story unfold. And we're going to move one step further into the bliss body. This is our essence, our union, our togetherness, the space where all of us exist in this perpetual oneness that we are never separate from, that always exists within us, that we are connected to always and ultimately. That sense of wholeness, completeness, union, protection, perfection, acceptance, unconditional love. That is who we are. And each and every single one of us is this. There is no separation between individualized senses of self. We're all the same. In this space, we can plant the intention that we desire to experience and allow it to permeate into the denser sheaths. Setting the intention to experience this oneness, this collective consciousness, this collectiveness in our projected realities. Allow our external realities to shift and change to reflect these new set intentions, these newfound or newly embodied energies that we experience in this unity plane. Give gratitude. Know that you can come back into this oneness, this union anytime. And then when you're feeling ready, bring yourself back through the sheaths. So back through the wisdom body into the soul, into the energetic body, into the emotional body, and then into the physical body. And when you're finding yourself fully back into the physical body, you can rub your hands or your legs, bring yourself back into your body, back into the room. Well, I'm very relaxed now.
It feels good. I have to say, I've been watching your videos for almost a year now. And as I told you when I first reached out and messaged you, they really have made an impact on me. It's just made an impact on me for a couple of different reasons. The clearing space, the alignment, clearing space. And it's been my experience in knowing you now for like the last 4, 5, 6 weeks that we've been interacting. It's almost like a completion of an energy, the female energy, the surrendering energy, the heart-centered energy over the mind-centered energy. And it really has felt for me, it's really been very helpful to me in completing, kind of taking me to higher understandings. And so as always, I want to thank you, but just let you know that it really made, even before we met personally, your videos made a big difference. And now that we've had these interactions and we've had these little male-female debates and, yin and yang, and, both are necessary, we need you, we need me. It really feels very complete for me. Still, I'm still on my own and I'm on my own little crazy path, but it feels much more aligned. And I know that I speak for a lot of people when I say that your work is very helpful and healing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I really appreciate our conversations, honestly. I feel the same way I really enjoy the balancing of the masculine and the feminine and the different perspectives that we come to things from, because I think that it allows for a more completeness of understanding. And, I've done lots of lives with lots of people and lots of different channelers, but it's nice to have the difference in energy and the difference in polarity to come together in a different kind of completion or different kind of energy.
It certainly has helped me, and there's no doubt about that. And even just thinking about what we did in our collective meeting last night, where we're going to create a picture and a template. It's really nice to also add to that. Yes, this is us, this is our effort, but we're not doing this for ourselves. We're creating this energy template for healing, and that other people can follow, and it'll heal other people, and that heals the planet. And the planet is part of a larger solar, it was one chakra in an infinite number of chakras in the galaxy, or in the solar, or in the universe. And the universe is only one energy center in all the universes.
Yeah.
It's really, really, like I said, it's humbling, and it really forces me to go inside to places that I'm not really comfortable with, and I can't really get to them on my own. I can't really get to that space on my own through my own logical brain. It really just helpful.
I love that.
Thank you. I love you, and I love everything,
too.
the energy that you bring. Which we should also say that, well, I'm going to say that when this TikTok ownership changes, I'm going to be unplugging from TikTok in this. Yes, thank you.
A
There
couple
you
people
go.
were
There you go,
asking, so
Taegan.
I just put it in.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. And please, if you're not already following Taegan. And I thank you for the follows and the likes and all that. But I will tell you that I'm going to be unplugging from this platform in the same way that I'm unplugged from X and I'm unplugged from Facebook and Instagram. I just don't believe in those companies, and I don't want to put my energy there. And I've loved TikTok. I think I've been doing this for about 3.5 years. I love it, and I love everything about it. I thought that getting rid of it was a big mistake. But when it changes ownership, I'm going to be unplugging, and we're moving. The collective is now operating in full swing on, or the Utopia Collective. I guess anyone can form a collective. The Utopia Collective is operating in full swing on Substack. And so those of you who are following me, I really do appreciate that. But make sure you're getting the newsletter so you can be apprised of our classes and our live sessions and whatnot. And
And
then
are we gonna next week? We're gonna do this on YouTube.
yeah, let's do that. We're going to do this on YouTube Live, and I don't know. Like, here's the thing. TikTok is fantastic. First of all, I love TikTok, and until they change ownership, I'm still here. So I think TikTok's great. I don't think it's going to be great, or no matter what it is, it's just not going to be part of my story, right? Whatever happens is going to happen, and that's just not going to be part of my drama. But what TikTok does that no other platform does is we do a live, and when I get the stats for this, it'll probably say 2 or 3 thousand people were here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's thousands of people come and go, and then there's a few hundred that stay for a few minutes, but then there's 20 or 30 or 40 who are paying attention, and that's our tribe here. Those are the
Yeah.
folks that should be following you and joining the collective and being plugged into these higher energy sources. But YouTube Live, and I've got about 3,500 subscribers on YouTube. But when we do a YouTube Live, I don't think, unless we promote it, which I will promote it on Substack in real time, unless we promote it, very, very few people are going to see that live. And that's the trade-off, I think.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to start building community in the other spaces, and I think if both of us put it out there that we're doing it on YouTube on all of our platforms, then hopefully we get some people.
I think so, yeah, and let's do that. So I will do that, and we'll meet again the same time Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. That was really, really nice. That's that heart center. You had also given another meditation a couple of weeks ago about rooting in the ground, and the heart is the beginning of that rooting process, and then anchoring yourself in higher dimensions of light, and the heart is the anchoring process there, and it's that unity. And I did that meditation, a couple of times. That's the way I do meditations. When I get a meditation that I like or I want to try, I don't just do it. I
Yeah.
do it over and over and over again, and I kind of pull it in and take ownership of it. And that's one that I took ownership of. That was really helpful too, this heart center. And so my question is, for those of us, and I think I speak for most people, well, I speak for a certain group of people, like we don't see anything,
Hmm.
right? I'm not aphantasic. I think I can understand I think I more lean towards that direction. We don't see anything. It's more of a thing. So I picture my thoughts coming from here. Now I'm trying to picture my thoughts coming from my heart, just from a mechanics point of view. Like, you've dealt with a lot of people and coached a lot of people in this inner sight, using your inner sight, reversing your awareness. How do you get your attention in your heart without the words, without the head center?
I think that moving from the identification of the thoughts coming from the mind and moving it into the understanding that they're coming from the like energy or wisdom bodies. So it's like we have to like go through the heart, because the heart is our connection to the entirety of who we are, and really like who we are. This physical vessel is at the center of who we are, and we have this big energy like we felt when we moved to, I don't know if you guys felt it, but when you move into the wisdom body, or even the energy body, it's like there's an expansiveness that comes. It's not just this physical vessel anymore. You move outward, and that's also who you are, and really you're all of it. But that's the kind of, I think, classic misconception of being a human is that our thoughts and our emotions and everything comes from this vessel, and really like this vessel is the character that we are operating from, but the thoughts and the energies, it's coming from this other kind of sheath that's beyond this. And so when we understand that it's not this body, thoughts are potentially manifesting from things that are in the emotional body, potentially things that are manifesting in the energy body, but it's not necessarily this body, and it's not necessarily the brain, although our brain obviously, controls a lot of what we are experiencing from within this perspective. But I think kind of like sinking into the understanding, or at least kind of like moving your intention to the understanding that it's beyond this, kind of allows you to sink deeper into the body and into the heart. Because I honestly think being in the body is the first step to being in the heart. And a lot of us have been conditioned to just kind of constantly be in the mind, constantly be figuring things out, constantly be trying to be like, okay, what do I need to do next? And really, if we're just kind of like allowing our presence to be not just a witness of the mind, but a witness of the body too, it will allow us to sink deeper into our heart space from that place, because there is a bit of a disconnection between the body and the mind. And so instead of just having presence of thought or presence of breath, allow it to be presence of the entirety of the vessel, because that will allow you to experience the wholeness of who you are from this space. And then it'll just go deeper and deeper and deeper.
The other picture that I used while you were doing that meditation is I pictured, I don't have a name for it, but like a tantric goddess with her hands exactly the same way as mine were, with her heart shining. And I said, okay, like I pictured her. And then I said, okay, well, that's me too. Then I just like drew that picture into me, so that
Yeah,
I was that picture, because I couldn't generate it in myself. So it was easier for me to generate it like a few feet in front of me and then just
totally.
draw that in. And if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. And this is the thing where I'm like, okay, so like, do you feel like you consciously were like, I'm going to think of this goddess, or did it kind of pop up?
The picture of the goddess, of what I wanted to see. This is what I was hoping that I wasn't experiencing, like I said, in my own darkness, which I wasn't experiencing, but I wanted to. Then I said, oh, okay, there's these pictures of goddesses with their exactly in the same pose I am, with their hearts, flowing, and the whole light thing and the golden light. I said, okay. So I was picturing her, and then I just, okay, that's me also.
It's funny
There's no
because
difference between me and that picture of that goddess, and that and obviously, well, anyway, not obviously. So anyway, go ahead.
what I was gonna say is like, to me, that even the thought, like oh, I should use this, like that's a message. Like that's not you necessarily being like, oh, I need to think of something to utilize. It's like that's your guides talking to you. And even if it isn't coming through in a way that's like super obvious, those little like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, or you, oh yeah, that is the communication with the guides. And that's why I always say like it's
But
way
you
more
say
subtle.
communication with the guides, but the guides are no different than me, and they're all in the same. We're all the same stuff. We're all
We're
the
all the
same
same. It's just
consciousness.
different aspects of source.
Yeah, and I like this idea of the body, not the body, but picturing this whole thing as a knowing being, without the thoughts to have to explain it and figure it out.
Yes.
There
Yeah.
you go, Cammy. I'm going to embrace my inner goddess. I never thought I'd say those words on a TikTok live, but there I said it.
I love it.
And it is this merger of thinking and not thinking, effort and effortlessness, trying, not trying, planning, not planning. It's that surrender, where you need to project, you need to try, and then you just need to not try and let it all work out, and then try again, and keep
Totally.
effortless. Very interesting. Wow. All right. So, all right, that was really good. Uh, thank you, Cami. I appreciate that. Um, Just scrolling through some of the comments. Excellent.
Let
Aphid
it
tree is
flow.
a busy bee in the comments. Yeah. What else? Let's talk about. Well, one of this is what you and I talked about in our WhatsApp chat. We in the collective have decided that one of our core objectives is to become a center of knowledge, a center of expertise in creating books. We got a bunch of people that volunteered for that. And then you and I actually had been talking about that earlier, and then we talked about it again after that. Um, Here's what I want to do. I want to just create a timeline where we already are a center of excellence
Mm.
in books, and we don't have to go through this whole learning process, and we don't have to go through this whole figuring it out and making 1,000 mistakes and ups and downs and roller coasters. And I believe that we can do that. So I believe that we can, if we can imagine a timeline and be pretty clear about it, and then use our energetic collective energy, I think we can manifest that faster.
Let's do it.
So how do we do that? All right. So um, the way I would start is I would start by saying that we already are this, but we have to be more clear about this. So I wrote down a few things. Um, at the very high level, at the very high sixth dimensional level, we want to create a magnetic vault that's going to last for thousands of years, where all this wisdom and knowledge is retained. And things like that are important for me is to go back in time and take some of this enlightened wisdom, like some of this Taoist wisdom, where you can activate the. I've talked to you about this, the light consciousness, and we actually did a workshop on that Sunday morning on the secret of the golden flower and activating. So I think that knowledge needs to be contained in a book so that it's available for future generations, so we don't lose it. And Vedic knowledge and tantric knowledge and knowledge of the ley lines of the earth and knowledge, all this stuff that we know, we have to create a repository in such a way that it's going to last for thousands of years, and that we can get these certainly for 50 and 100 years, because I'm very concerned that our population is moving away has already moved away from books. We're in phase 3 of that divorce. We're just divorced ourselves from books. And as I said, in the collective, our collective is going to seek power. Everyone else doesn't care about the power. So books is a great way to start. And I think it's a way to reach into families. It aligns with our parenting mission to be able to create books for parents that help parents and kids, etc. There.
Yeah. I've wondered like what the whole book thing is going to look like moving past this, or like moving. I've been like, are we even still going to be writing books? Because or is it going to be more of like an energetic download kind of thing?
Well, that's a really important, hit the pause button on that, because that's a really important conversation.
Yeah.
I think books provide you with an opportunity to get deep into an idea that no other medium does. You watch a movie about the same idea. Okay, it was a good movie and you kind of got it. But a book allows you to underline, write in the margins, doodle, journal about it, meditate about it. I think a book, like how do people learn now? Like how
Well,
do people
I
learn
completely
basic
agree.
facts?
And I think like in terms of this present timing, the book is it. Like it's such a good way to learn. But I'm thinking like, okay, if within this incarnation, if we are moving up dimensionally beyond the third dimension into a collective that is experiencing a fifth dimensional reality, what does that look like in terms of like, are people still going to be writing in the same way, or is it going to be more of like, because I'll explain why this is coming up. So as you're explaining this like magnetic vault in the sixth dimension, they're also telling me you need to connect it down into the earth grid as well, because when you connect it from like this higher dimensional point into the core of the earth grid, it actually dissipates throughout all of the dimensional planes in the in between, and so it connects through all of the earth, all of like, basically it becomes part of the collective consciousness itself. And so if we are creating something on the energetic plane, but also is going to be something that we are creating and interacting with on the physical plane as well. Because we've created this inception point in the sixth dimension, it actually kind of permeates down through the entirety of what we experience, which means that it's part of the collective consciousness. And so these ideas that we are embedding within to this magnetic vault are going to be ideas that come to people with more ease, if that makes sense.
It does make sense to me, because in this timeline that we're creating, it's easy to write books. It's not a burden. You get an idea and hey, that's a really good idea. Flesh it out a little bit and then, press a button, drop it in the box, press the start button, boop, 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 and out pops a manuscript. And here's the problem with when it comes to writing books and authors, every single person that tries to write a book or tries to do anything in this three-dimensional world has to figure every step out for themselves, or has to pay someone at every step, and the person that they pay to do it doesn't really care about their book.
Yeah.
They're just doing it as a step in the, I'm just following your instructions. Like I hire people on Upwork and I can't stand it because like all they do is they wait for me to tell them what to do. I hired you because you're the expert in this area. Like you tell me
Yeah.
what to do, but they can't because they just are operating transactionally. And so I want to create a center where we've got all these people that know how to do it, but it's more of a flow and we actually care about your book. It would be like us coming to clean your house and not just cleaning your house the way we cleaned the last house, but clean your house because you have this triangular roof. We got to make sure we get up there. We got to do it for you. We have to make your book for you. And I want to, and I don't want everyone who has an idea for a book to have to it's like as I think about the next book I have to write, it's like a mountain of things I have to. What format do I use? Do I use Word? Do I write it here? Do I, what are there like little secrets in Word that I don't know that would make the whole thing a lot easier? And that's what I want to learn, acquire, combine, and then be this center of excellence, and then apply that center of excellence to aligned authors, to the books that we want to write as a collective, to other people who are aligned with those ideas, and create this library of books and make it easy. Oh, people really liked your book. Why don't you write a couple more? I can't. It was too complicated. Well, don't worry about how complicated it is. Just we're trying to make it easy. And like you said, you get the idea. These ideas come to you, and it's just easier to transform them into something that actually helps someone, that helps another person.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a lot of talking.
Yeah. So I think if we create it in the sixth dimension and then we anchor it into the Earth's core, then I think it'll just manifest.
Right. And that's what I really believe. I believe if we can picture it in the sixth dimension and we combine cooperatively, collectively to really believe in this picture magnetically, I don't think we know how it's going to happen.
Exactly.
Right? Somebody said in our thing last night, well, that's, writing 20 books by the end of next year. That's a lot of work. I don't know. Maybe it's easy. Who knows?
Yeah.
If you think three-dimensionally, 20 books is a lot of books. But if you think about it as first inventing a process and then just dropping book ideas in and then it may not be that hard.
Yeah.
Right. So all you people saying yes, where were you last night? We had our collective meeting and we need your help because we're forming a committee on just exactly this thing, becoming a center of excellence in book publishing. And a heart-centered center of excellence. Not that we're, may or may not do it for free, but it's not going to, you have to pay $5,000 and we'll publish your book and your whole book won't ever make more than $200 or $300. And that's another thing too. A lot of these books aren't going to sell tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of copies. We also have to understand that too. So that may be a different problem. Anyway, so that's a lot of talking. So how do we picture this center of excellence? How do we magnetize that in the sixth dimension? And then you talked about anchoring that in Earth. So how do we like bond those two things together?
I think whatever you usually do within the sixth dimension, like create it in that space, and then it just needs to be like a beam of light from that space moving down through the dimensions into the core of the Earth, and then that feels good to me.
There you go. All right. So poof, there's the timeline. So we're going to swipe all the timelines where we don't know how to write books, and we're going to create this timeline energetically where we can write them and where they pop out and where we control them and we control the marketing of them and the profits are distributed to the collective and all that good stuff. All right. So how do we do that? I know how we did it last night, but I went through this a tool, but it's something that we're going. I introduced a tool called the Abundance Blueprint. I can't get into it now. It's too much and it's too abstract for people. People wouldn't understand it in just a few minutes. But what the goal of the Abundance Blueprint is to turn this vision into a visual picture of why we're doing this. Like, what are we exactly doing? We're creating a center of excellence. Why are we doing it? To make book writing easier, to encourage aligned authors. We get all our whys and whats. This is why we're doing it. This is what we're doing. And then the second element is, what do we need to learn that we don't know now, so that we can do that. We need to learn the tools, we need to learn the processes, we need to understand how to do illustrations and et cetera. Well, there's a whole list of things we need to learn how to do. We need to learn how to use AI to help in the process. So there's these things we need to learn. And then the third one in the Abundance Blueprint is, what are we going to now do differently? Like, what new habits and new routines are we going to establish that will manifest? So first, be clear about what we're doing and why it's important to us. That's really important. It has to be aligned with what we're excited about doing. Like, we got to be motivated to doing it. Why are we so motivated to do this? Why is it important? What we need to learn that we don't know now, what gaps we need to fill in, and then what are we actually going to do to make it happen? And what we did was, we did a really brief one with the group, but then we're going to get the smaller group together, like a little book committee, and we're going to refine this blueprint in more detail, and then we're going to energize it together.
I, I like it. So do we have the what, why, and what we
I
need to
have
do?
the what and the why. I'll just read it to you.
Okay.
I could show it to you too, but
Okay.
it's too small. So the what and the why. We want to create a magnetic vault, to preserve knowledge and wisdom for a long period of time. Like, I'm really concerned about the next 50 years. I'm not going to be around 50 years from now, but I'm really concerned that people have something they can hold on to. They have a pathway, and each book leads them to the next book and the next book, the next one that they're interested in. So I want to create a magnetic vault that preserves this knowledge and wisdom, not just in the short term, 50 and 100 years, but for a long period of time, a much longer period of time. Um, our goal as a collective, I want to get 2 books out by the end of 2025. I want to have 20 books by the end of 2026. So that's a specific numeric goal. The goal is to become a center of excellence on book publishing. The goal is to encourage aligned authors to work with us. Another goal, or another what and why, is we want to win in the book market. We don't just want to be in the book market. We want to win. We want to have a market share in that market, even though it's a shrinking market. We want to have a share of it, and then we want to help grow it back. It's all the other reason we're doing it is, it's a high priority for the collective, to be a source of literacy and reading and books. That's one of our main goals as a collective. And to the knowledge, the wisdom, and the whole effort will raise the vibration of the planet.
Totally. I
And
think
I
it's
said
actually
that
gonna.
before our conversation earlier.
It's so interesting because to me, it's like this is gonna be. It's so beyond what we can currently see from this perspective within the third dimension, because it's gonna shift and change as our consciousness shifts and changes too, because what you're describing with like the magnetic vault, like that's basically the Akashic records. And obviously, what we're creating is going to be not the Akashic records, because that's where like all information exists. We all have access to that, but it's like we're creating like a miniature version of that in the sixth dimension that kind of permeates down into this. So that in itself to me is really interesting. And so yeah,
And
I
everything
love
that's
it.
in the vault is a book about healing, a book about self-development, a book about self-transformation, a book about, ancient wisdom that we can apply in our modern lives. It's a book, to help parents
Mhm.
be better parents, and, just show up better for their kids, or be more balanced, and, bring alignment and balance. So it's not just any old books. It's kind of like new versions of books that really move people forward toward these higher frequency paths or higher dimensional paths.
Yeah, I
So
love it.
it's a worthwhile effort for sure. It's worthwhile, it's important, it's high priority. So that's the why and the what.
Okay, cool. I think if we like use the same method that we did in that meditation to kind of bring us back into the oneness. We can just stop at the wisdom body, which is the soul, and kind of go up from there. So go up into the sixth dimension, plant the seed there, and then bring it back down into the core of the earth, and then come back into this space.
And then watch what happens.
And then see what happens.
Just keep our eyes open. Oh, wow. And that's what I said in the cycle of mind. When you're trying to change yourself, it's a lot of work in the beginning, but you have to be very aware of even the smallest little things.
Yeah.
That and just, oh, look, I'm trying to create abundance. Oh, look, I found, 10 cents in the parking lot. Just watch what happens and watch what happens, because we're dealing with unseen forces. And particularly when we talk about this magnetic sixth dimensional manifestation, these are really powerful forces. And I'm pretty sure the way it works is when you get a bunch of people creating a rhythm, like a repeatable, balanced rhythm, the universe would have no choice but to respond to those vibrations,
Totally.
those patterns.
100%. We're the ones creating this. And
Right.
so if we have enough people with that intention, it has to manifest. So I think 100%. And when the things start to come in, acknowledge them, even if they're little, even if it's like, somebody's like talking about something, like, no, that's a sign that the energy is flowing.
Right, because what happens is in the cycle of mind, I said, you do these repeated things over and over again, and the universe, has to rewire millions and zillions and trillions of things that you don't see, and it doesn't happen right away. But as these things start to get rewired, some things actually show up like pretty quickly or within the
Yeah.
first couple of days and weeks. Other things, and then over time, 3-4 months from now, you look back and you say, wow, that really manifest. I've changed. I'm a different person. All right. So what do we do next? So I have this abundance blueprint. I have this idea of what we want to do. We want to create a magnetic vault. We want to be a repository for wisdom that lasts for centuries, not just for a few weeks or months, but for centuries. We want to attract aligned authors. We want to make it easy. We want to become a center of excellence in the process of books. And we want to heal the planet. We want to do this to not only give ourselves something fun to do, but we want to do this for a healing purpose. And then we want to take this picture and we want to magnetize it at the highest levels of our consciousness. And then we want to see that picture at the same time, almost like a cylinder. Like if it's a circle up here, that's a whole cylinder, and that same thing is in the sixth dimension and the third dimension at the same time. And we're energizing that flow. It is done.
Okay, so I was like pulling.
Now this is fun because we're experimenting. We're just
I
playing
was
around.
pulling energy down from like source. So I had like the big source ball up at the top, and then I was like, okay, we're anchoring in the sixth dimension, which is, not quite at source level. And so I was like pulling energy in from source to feed the intention at the sixth dimension. And then it was like pouring down into the third dimension and accumulating. And then at a certain point it disconnected from the sixth and became this ball that like rolled, and they said it is done at the same time that you said it is done. So it's happening, and I think that's like the ball is rolling, the momentum is there now. That's what they were kind of showing me. It's like, okay, you've created this snowball.
We've created it, and if you continue to operate in this magnetic level, visualizing consistently for a period of time, it just gains depth and more energy and more power and momentum on its own.
Well, yeah, 100%. I think and that's one of the things that they talk about with manifestation, which I think is like really important, is like that detachment. So it's like the energy is in motion now. We know that it's in motion. We can trust that it's in motion. And then all of the things that come in the interim that are those little sparks that are like, okay, it's confirmation that the energy is in motion, that allows us to like sink deeper into the surrender, because literally that's the action. We just did the action that was necessary to create the flow. I mean, of course, things are going to plop into our reality that we will have to interact with. So when things come in that are like, an invitation or an opportunity or an idea, or, we figure out how we want to model this, like that, the ideas that come in, we have to act on. But now it's like the trajectory is set and the pathway is open for us. We just got to walk down it.
Right. The picture, the template is in place, and we're now, Source has no choice but to go through that template. And Source goes through that template, and now powers that are far greater than us are, well, we are those powers, those powers, those unseen powers. But now we're not dealing with three-dimensional powers. We're dealing with six-dimensional magnetic powers. And now those powers go right through this picture. And I know me and our group in this book group in the collective is going to keep that picture going. And I got to find ways to work with you and kind of weave you into what we're doing, because you have different ideas and complementary ideas. So and other people will have complementary ideas and aligned ideas. And that's the goal, is we created this thing. I like this idea that it's like it disconnected from both, and it's now there, and it's doing its thing, and it's just going to do its thing, how it does its thing. And it will manifest. I just 100% know. And I also believe that every action that we take like this will teach us more about how these forces actually work.
Totally.
I'm really big, and for anyone out there who hasn't read this book, The Cycle of Mind, this is a book that talks about how the universe, the material universe, the third dimensional universe is vibrational. And this is the cycle, the universe operates in rhythms and cycles. And once you can get your mind on a repetitive cycle and stay consistently and back it up with actions and habits and whatnot, you're creating patterns in mind, and you don't see how it manifests, but it has no other choice than to manifest. And everything that is manifested now is manifested because of our infinitely complex patterns that we're creating. And if we can just get together as a collective and zoom in on specific patterns, and then say, hey, let's forget that. Let's go to the sixth dimension and just do it magnetically, where there's much more force. So I understand the way the third dimensional manifestation works. Now we're going to understand. And everything that we do is going to be a learning experience as to how, it worked, didn't work, did work, did work. And we'll learn how to get more and more precise. And there's no limit to these number of blueprints that we can create. We can create blueprints about anything.
So cool.
Once I realized that I didn't have to create tools in the third dimension, it never occurred to me that there were other dimensions. But then once I understood, I get it. Yeah, there's other dimensions. Now we can create tools in other dimensions. And I had another question for you if you have a few more minutes.
For sure.
Can you tell me or ask about or tell me about fifth dimensional energy and crystalline structures and light, and how that would actually work? Because it's my understanding in Atlantean technology and Egyptian technology that they actually had some ability to control and create light, energy, and crystalline structures. Or is that just fantasy, if you can tell me?
No, they definitely did. I've seen it in so many people's records, and in the Akashic records of those locations, they definitely did. So yeah.
Tell a mind-centered person about crystalline structures from a heart-centered understanding.
Okay, I just want to ask the guide something really quickly. Okay, that's what I thought. So there's like a difference between crystalline, as in 3D crystals, like quartz crystals, stuff like that, and then what we refer to as like a crystalline grid, or the crystalline, these crystalline buildings. The crystalline is really just physical form that's existing at a higher vibration. So it doesn't have the same density. It's made out of light and frequency, although it still has form. But because it's made out of light and frequency, it's able to be created through the use of energetic technology. The energetic technology that was used during those time periods is the energetic technology that I talk about in my book. It's the energy convergence points. It's the electromagnetic frequency of the earth that is transmitted in particular ways, either through individualized consciousnesses, but I think that there was like actual physical technology that they used to like cultivate. I'm seeing this like thing in my head. I don't know what this is. It's this machine that it accumulates the energy of the land, and then you can like propel it in a certain direction is what it looks like. But it looks like it's based in the actual crystal beds of the earth. So the crystal beds manifest on the ley line grids, on the electromagnetic grids. So the electromagnetic grids of the earth, just like everything has to manifest from the energetic into the physical, just like what we just did, the electromagnetic or the ley line grid is the energetic, and then the crystals, like actual crystal beds, would manifest on top of that, because that would be the physical manifestation of those
Let me ask you, let's say we wanted to build a school for kids, children, like just a school education. How would that work?
I think that things are going to be, they're not going to be exactly the same from what I have understood in terms of like new earth buildings and technology. They're going to be much more earth-based. Like we're going to be utilizing the energies of the earth to like change the directional flow and growth of certain environmental structures, like almost like forming them into like new structures is what I've been shown. So our living situations are going to be like alive. They're not going to be made out of like dead material. And so they'll be able to conduct energy in a new way, but we're utilizing that through the energetic technology. But a lot of that is happening because there's going to be no separation between us and the sixth dimension, or us and like the astral field where we are able to do this energetic manipulation. So instead of doing it the way that we're doing it now, where it's like, we're planting the intention and we have to wait for it to come in, it's almost like we understand that we are always and intricately connected to that space. And so we are connecting in with that space and allowing it to flow through with us. So there's almost like a close to instantaneous type of manifestation. So we get to create in completely new ways than we can at this point, because there is so much like friction dimensionally that we have to move through, and that seed or that
well, let's swipe the timelines. We're already through all that stuff that we have to learn, and let's just swipe that timeline. I don't have that many more years on the earth. Let's just say we already know this. We already have access to it. Why don't we already have access to it? We're already above the fifth dimension. That's just like just an experience. Like you said, it's an experiential thing. It's not, it's just like a learning thing, a frictional thing. It's like we experience third dimensional experience. We have to go through it in order to learn a lesson. Why don't we just start at the sixth dimension and just learn how to manipulate these crystalline structures now?
I think that we can. And I think that the only thing that's stopping that from actually like being like totally objective, the only thing that stops it from happening is the limitations that we still have in the mind. And so I think that the work that we are doing right now, and the work that you are doing in your collective, where you're actively going up there and you're watching things manifest, that's what gets rid of the limitations. Because you don't think that those things are real until they start becoming real, because until it feels tangible, right? And so that's part of this incremental process. But I think that you're right. And like, honestly, I do work in that astral space, like whatever you want to call it, and see immediate results. Like I see that on a personal level. And so I think that we can do that. We can go up into the sixth dimension and just create it and watch it take form.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Absolutely, 100%. So do we have to move to a certain place so we can connect with different land? And here's the thing, I'm moving once. I'm done with moving. I'm going to move one more time. So just tell me where and when, and we'll be there. And I got the green light from Beverly. She's coming with me, so I can go. Um, and so because I'm not going anywhere without her. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's just be in that timeline, and let's not anchor ourselves to the timeline where that's not possible or we don't understand it yet. Swipe those timelines away and let's anchor to a higher timeline.
Okay, so
We're
what is
already
it that
doing
we
these
are
things.
specifically desiring to create and manifest out of these like crystalline structures? Because I think that everything
That's the
is
key
going to have
question.
like
And
a
my answer is
specific
nothing.
location.
Yeah, my answer is nothing yet because I don't really know how it works. Can they give us an example of a crystalline structure
Like,
that
what are we
already
trying to create though? Are
exists?
we trying to create like a school? Are we trying to create like like what are we creating?
Well, we want to create everything, anything that we need to live a comfortable, happy, peaceful, abundant, aligned life.
They're saying that everything like it's going to be dependent on okay, this is they're giving it to be very guidesy, but everyone's going to have or everything is going to be built depending on like the structural and environmental needs of the particular location. So everything is going to look different depending on the collective that's going to be utilizing it. And so if we're talking about something that like us as a collective is going to use, it's almost like it might be more energetic. Like it might be a more energetic space because for it to be more localized, it's going to be specific to the localized group of individuals that's going to be utilizing it. Of course, there's going to be schools, there's going to be buildings, there's going to be houses, there's going to be like community centers, I want to say, but like community gathering spaces. And those are all going to be dependent on where or on the specific location. So there will be almost like there will be specific locations that these things are going to be built because it will be energetically aligned for those things to be in those places. It will make the most sense energetically, just like how we have a particular role to play, we have a particular, area to live in. Each of our energetic fields is coded to a particular location. That is why we end up moving to certain places at certain times. And so these physical locations and these physical buildings have the same thing where it will almost be like there will be a most aligned place for it to be. But in terms of us creating it for like the collective, it makes sense to have it be more of a energetic space that people can
I hear
access.
what you're saying. My question is in the future that you imagine or you're being told about, um, we're still anchored in a three-dimensional space. Will this be overlaid over the spaces that we live in now? So it seemed to me like these systems that we have now are not going to last forever.
It's
Are they going
it's
to be overlaid on the current architectures, or are we going to have all need to move out into the country or somewhere?
it's overlaid on top, but there is the natural split that's happening before that. So like I was saying at the beginning, if all of us are anchored into a fifth dimensional reality, energetically, we are going to be experiencing that outwardly, collectively, because we have to experience the external reality that we're experiencing internally. So we're not necessarily going to be interacting or experiencing third dimensional systems, institutions, and infrastructure if we are anchored into fifth dimensional consciousness. And likely there is a splitting that happens between a complete embodiment collectively into that fifth dimensional consciousness or before we collectively shift. That's why, we talk about the splitting of new earth and old earth. And really that's like you are being given choices about whether or not you choose to continue to take part in third dimensional systems or whether or not you want to, move into fifth dimensional systems. And over the next several months, year, like there's probably going to be opportunities where it's like, I don't know if I really want to continue to partake in this, which might make you want to make a third dimensional move to a different location, to more community-based locations that have, certain systems and structures already in place or already being created. And I think that there's going to be a natural movement for people towards those things. I do feel like there's going to be some, external tension that creates a necessity to make a certain type of choice about whether or not you want to choose to continue to feed your energy into the old third dimensional system or into the new systems. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but it feels like there's a shaking up that happens, as well as a shaking up internally, because everything again is just a reflection. And so things will either get so uncomfortable internally, like it's like, this doesn't feel right anymore, I can't do this anymore, that'll make that shift. Or there will be, external tensions that make people decide to make that shift. And so I think it's twofold, where it's like it's not directly overlain on top, because most people will have likely made a choice prior to that point to get them into an actual physical location that is more energetically aligned with fifth dimensional structures. Whereas the old third dimensional systems are probably going to be more gathered within cities. There's probably going to be more of dense infrastructure, more, technology, but like 3D technology based stuff. And then the other half of that is like moving toward more community collaboration on a physical level, not just on like a online level.
Okay, so let me ask you that. Would it be, will people form those, or will they be formed kind of through flow, or can Alan and Taegan say, hey, we're setting up something in Vancouver and this is what we're doing, and this is because of the ley lines, and everybody's
Yeah.
welcome, and it's going to be a book center and a center of, wisdom and architecture, and anyone who wants to come can come? Or is that just trying to do it, just forcing it and making it not work?
I
Or
think that it's
like you've
both.
always said, like, just don't worry about it.
I think
Everything's going to be fine. You're going
it's
to be fine.
both. It's not like just don't worry about anything and ignore, the feelings that are coming up, because the pull to create something like this is genuine and it is aligned. But it's like, okay, what is it that actually feels aligned for us to be doing right now? And so in terms of like the actual like physical location thing, like I'm literally about to move to a physical location in 2 weeks that is more of a spiritual hub, that is more energetically aligned with what I feel like is the future, like the more community based, more collaborative, more like-minded folks that are existing within like the actual physical reality that I'll be experiencing. And I think that that's going to be the tendency. There's going to be a pull towards soul family finding one another. And when soul family find one another, soul family have shared mission, which means that there's going to be an amplification of these like aligned processes happening. So I would say, building something in Vancouver, for example, might like it would be somewhere that feels energetically aligned. Like maybe we collaborate and then we're creating it in our own individualized locations, or maybe like the online sphere, like we get these ideas and then we're able to trickle it down into our various physical locations and create hubs for it in that way. Like I can see that being something that happens, and bringing it more into physicality in that way. I'm not sure that we know 100% what the physical version of it looks like yet. And so that's why it's more like pay attention to what feels like the right thing to do in this moment and do that thing. And then when it feels right, or because if we're following that pathway of alignment, the opportunity for the right choice is going to come in before we try and make it work. Like it's going to either like we're going to hear about it, or like the space is going to open up, or somebody's going to like want to collaborate with us. Like things are going to start to flow. And so we don't need to be like, I need to make this happen and this happen and this happen. It's like, no, what is the next thing that we need to do to make this model, this concept more concrete? And it can be concrete in the energetic and online spheres first, and then it'll trickle down into all of the respective locations that it needs to.
Well, yes. I hear you. I hear you. I get you. I get it. Yeah, yeah. My first tendency, as always, is to try to make something or create something. And that, nothing wrong with that. That's just who I am. But that sets up a resistance that it has to be a certain way. And now I already know everything that I need to know. So here's what we're going to do. But the truth is, we don't know everything that we need to know. We don't know everything that we're going to know. And like you say, it's just, this presents itself now. So that's a good choice. Is it the final answer? No, it's just a little incremental shift. And that's what you're talking about, is continue to make these incremental shifts according to your alignment. And then it will take care of itself. but you still
Yeah.
have to make those incremental shifts and choices.
Yeah, for sure.
I hear you. I hear you, Taegan. I get it. All
I
right. All right.
love it. And I love the snowball that we've created though. I think that it's going to be I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, let's keep our attention focused on it. And like I said, I'll be bringing it back into that. So anyone who's interested in what we were talking about, don't lose touch with us. Go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter. And Tegan, just you and I will figure out, we'll go on YouTube next week
Yeah,
at the
I'm going to
same
type
time. We'll give
my
it a
ad
shot.
one more time
1
for people that
p.m.
want to follow
Eastern
me on
time.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please follow Tegan, and you're staying on TikTok, right? No matter what happens.
I'll be on TikTok, but I do feel, and I have been feeling for a while that I knew that there was going to be a migration away from TikTok and I think away from Instagram too, because the Instagram algorithm just sucks. And so people want to create on different platforms. So I have kind of felt the shift away from it for a while anyway. So I think that it makes sense for us to, at least we'll try YouTube out and see how it goes.
Yeah, and it's not. Also, I don't really understand is once they create a TikTok America, they're saying, I'm pretty sure that's going to disconnect us from the outside world. So it'll just be
Yeah.
American creators, but it might disconnect you from all your followers as well. Because I would imagine the vast majority of your followers on TikTok are from the United States.
I think so. I think a vast majority of
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to
Interesting.
be able to create those connections in other
So,
places for
like we're
sure.
just saying, now in the now moment, here's a nice shift. It's right there in front of us. We can make the aligned shift. We don't know what comes after and after and after, but I like that. Just make the aligned shift today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I think it's great.
Helps slow down my need to solve all the problems at once. Interesting. Well, thank you as always, Tegan. I love talking
Yeah.
to
Thank
you.
you.
I
What a
love it.
pleasure.
Yeah. Same here. So anyway, so you folks, I'm going to put up a video on TikTok in the next couple of days about the live that we're going to do on YouTube. Um, and we'll just keep seeing what happens. You do the same and we'll see. And then also on our Substack, I'm going to post it like a half hour before the event or an hour before the event. So that'll also get a few people over there. Um,
Perfect.
and we'll see. Maybe you and I can do like a dry run, like a test, because I
Yeah.
would like to know what link to give people to go look at the live. So when we do the live, I also want someone else trying to find out like where we're showing up,
Totally.
so
Yeah.
that you can so
100%.
that we can send out a link to it as well.
Okay. Let's do it.
All right, sounds great. Thank you, Tegan. I love sharing energy with you. It's awesome.
Thank you. I do too. And thank you for everybody that shared energy with us here
Yeah,
today
and I
as
want to
well.
tell everybody who's here, look, I mean, the very fact that you're here, you can scroll. There's, probably some 18-year-old kid playing Roblox that has 50,000 people watching him live. This isn't for everybody. Not everybody's on this wavelength. The fact that you're here, you already opened yourself to these higher dimensional frequencies and energies. And just know that you're really, really far along the path, and just continue to plug into positive sources. And as much as you can, disconnect from the negative sources. But that's not enough. You then have to replug yourself into these positive sources. So stay connected with us, and we'll keep broadcasting on this, wavelength of alignment and love and peace, and the
Mm.
future ascension. So that's excellent. I'm so happy we're doing this.
Yeah. Me too.
Thanks, Tegan.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Everyone have a great day.